Let's get more perspective on the situation in Libya from Diane Johnstone, a political writer. Good to have you with us. So Gaddafi's gone back on his word and continued military action against his own people. Don't you think that in some way justifies intervention?
Of course not. I mean, against his own people. This is a civil war. Which part of his own people are you talking about? I mean, that is simply, you can't tell me that the real concern here is about the people of Libya. I want to point out a few things. One thing is that the whole notion that you have a resolution to protect civilians by calling in NATO is absurd. NATO is not equipped to protect civilians. NATO is predicted to bomb them, to send cruise missiles. What NATO does, and the United States does, what it's equipped to do, and it is not equipped to protect civilians. If the United Nations had wanted to protect civilians, they would have sent in a neutral observation team that could have been done very rapidly from different neutral nations to find out what was really going on the ground. Because in fact, we don't know what is really going on the ground. There have been reports of atrocities. If there were proof and photos of those atrocities committed by the Gaddafi regime, I think we'd be seeing them every hour on the Western television screens. We're not seeing them, and so I am not sure that that is really the case. Of course, now there will be atrocities, and now there will be deaths because NATO is involved, and that always brings about atrocities.
Well, this isn't really NATO involvement right now. It's UN involvement, and we have the US and France.
It's the US.
And the UK.
NATO is the United States. NATO is the United States with the others there as cover who are getting in and strutting around and looking important, like the French. But basically, NATO is the United States and its satellites.
Do you think there is any other way to oust Gaddafi? Because he himself says that he'll fight until the last drop of blood.
Well, now he certainly will, because of precisely what is happening. I mean, you have made him impossible to get out, because they have said, instead of saying from the start that Gaddafi could resign the way Ben Ali or Mubarak did, they've said the only thing that we could do is send him to an international criminal court and blah, 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 and all that. So he's been cornered. He has no way out, and so of course he's fighting back. I say from the very start, if people cared about peace, but I don't think that's what they cared about, and we could get into that, is what's really behind this, they would have, the United Nations has now completely disgraced itself, to my mind, because it is supposed to be a peacekeeping operation, and it should, to keep peace, you first of all have to know the facts. They had to send in neutral observers. They have refused to do that. Instead of that, they send in NATO, which cannot possibly protect civilian lives. It's naive to think that. I mean, a lot of people have fallen for that. I think it's by pure ignorance, by some and by calculations of another. But a no-fly zone, you see, already they've gone beyond that. They always go beyond whatever excuse they give to get to start military action.
Now, you wrote a book
like that.
You wrote a book on NATO's operation in Yugoslavia. Do you think we're seeing parallels between what went on there and what's going on in Libya?
Yes, indeed, because what is similar is you have internal problems in a country. You had Albanians in Kosovo who were separatists from Yugoslavia, and you have in Benghazi, you have eastern Libya, which has always been somewhat different from West. You have geographic and no doubt ethnic splits which are historic in Libya, and these are being exacerbated from the outside, and this is a pattern which is extremely dangerous. Once you get an internal armed rebellion, because remember, the rebellion in Libya, unlike the demonstrations in Egypt and in Tunisia, was armed practically from the start. So you have an armed rebellion. Naturally, you tell me what country, when it has an armed rebellion, doesn't try to repress it. And immediately the repression is denounced as violation of human rights or even genocide, and that's the excuse for the United States and NATO to intervene. They have their own motives for that, but they will use that, and they can do it anywhere. They can do it anywhere. You see, this is a very dangerous precedent, because it can be used against any country whose regime the United States and its allies don't like. And the real objective is regime change.
All right, Diane Johnstone, thanks for your perspective.
I had a lot more to say.
Sorry, we have to leave it there.